everybody, and welcome to week 2 of the Community Super League. I'm Gaby Sparts with Kenji Egashira, aka Numa Tanami, with me. And I'm going to pat myself on the back. I had to try really hard not to laugh through the intro. Hey Kenji, how are you?
I'm doing very, very well. After my devastating loss last week, I'm ready to come in, get some flavor going. Actually, we're playing each other later today, by the way.
We are playing later each other.
So if I get a little grouchy, at the intro here against you, I'm sorry. I apologize. it's just what I do.
Yeah.
Got some sweet things coming up.
I got a little clue about what you were playing earlier. I mean, it was a literal clue. You sent me an actual clue on Twitter.
I got the Are You Afraid of the Dark on your end. Man, I used to watch that show all the time as a kid.
Yeah, that show was awesome.
I'm interested to see what your deck's all about.
It's about whether you're scared of the dark and a couple of other things. A number of them.
I heard from some sources that it's very flavorful, so I'm excited to see what it is.
I'm excited to see chat try to figure it out.
Yes, exactly. For those of you who don't know what we're doing, Gabby, we're doing Innistrad Plane Constructed. So what does that mean?
So Innistrad Plane Constructed is a format invented by our producer Athena. And it consists of all of the Innistrad block plus the new quote-unquote Innistrad set, which is Shadows over Innistrad. So it's basically a block constructed format that has 4 total sets, and we could build decks out of that entire block. So the one thing to keep in mind is Intangible Virtue and Lingering Souls is banned. But we actually have a little explainer video to tell you guys a little bit more about this format. So why don't we roll that explainer video and everybody gets to see at home.
Welcome to week 2 of the Community Super League. Hold on to your hats because things are about to get spooky. This week our players are tackling Innistrad Plane Constructed. Players can build decks using cards from Original Innistrad, Dark Ascension, Avacyn Restored, and Shadows over Innistrad. Due to their power level, the cards Intangible Virtue and Lingering Souls are banned, but everything else, well, that's fair game. What will our players bring to the table? Will vampires and werewolves reign supreme, or will we see a miracle tonight? You can join in on the fun by purchasing Shadows over Innistrad booster packs from your local game store. See what cool decks you can build, and challenge your friends to a night of scary good fun. To find a store near you, check out locator.wizards.com.
All right, welcome back. So that's a little bit about what this week's format is, and it's cool. Everybody got to brew some very interesting decks. I've been taking a look at what some other people are playing, so we really have a lot of awesome magic coming to you tonight.
Yeah, our very first match of the night is going to be between Daddy Paul Cheon and Mr. Marshall Banana Man Sutcliffe. I think we have the decks
Can
available.
We pull up Paul Cheon's list right now?
Man, I'm so upset with what Daddy Cheon opted to go with. Please, it's okay. The name is the best part about his deck. Hallelujah. But come on, it's miracles.
It's pretty flavorful. Come on, it's a miracle. What he has to sing as he casts some of these spells, and it's gonna be great. But yes, this is somewhat similar to the deck that won the Pro Tour back in Innistrad, block constructed. But it's sweet. It has a lot of really cool spells. Entreat the Angels, Temporal Mastery, Terminus. They all miracle. You can cast them for relatively cheap, and if you do get to miracle them, they're going to be very powerful.
Yeah, it's cool that he has 4 Expose Evil and some other ways to produce clue. Actually, and the Thraben Inspectors to produce clues so that he can sacrifice the clues on the opponent's turn to potentially miracle, should that be a thing.
Yeah, what are some of the new additions from Shadows here? Because this deck is somewhat similar to the old school Miracles deck.
Just the Thraben Inspectors and the Expose Evils, it looks like. Oh, I guess the Jaces as well, of course.
It's a spicy one. There's an Archangel Avacyn in the sideboard as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
Of course, for those of you who might not know, Miracles are very, very powerful cards. They allow you to potentially cast them a lot cheaper or more powerfully if it's the very first card that you've drawn for the turn. So Paul Cheon here has Devastation Tide, which returns all non-land permanents. Entreat the Angels, I'm sure many of you know that card. You get a ton of 4/4 flyers. Temporal Mastery, take an extra turn. What? Terminus? Put all creatures on the bottom of their libraries. This is I mean, it's going to be fun to watch, I'm sure, but...
Oh, for sure. The other cool thing is with Jason Raveler's Secrets, the new edition, he gets to control he gets to scry some. So in some ways, he might be able to play with his library to hopefully get to miracle some of these sorceries. Would be pretty cool. I'm excited to see this deck in action.
Yeah, let's take a look at what Marshall's running. And of course, if you know Marshall Sutcliffe, you know what he's running. Spider spawning for life. Gabby, run us through this deck.
Sure. So if you're familiar with the old school Innistrad draft set, one of the coolest things that you could do is draft spider spawning. Old school card basically pays off for milling yourself and then activating it to get infinite spiders, essentially. So Marshall's deck, it's trying to mill itself. It's playing cards like Armored Scob, that mills 3 cards. I think it's 3 when it enters a battlefield. Screeching
4,
Cob does 4. Yeah, Screeching Scob does the same thing. The Ginrog monster, cool new addition right there. And then he's also playing a number of cards that care about the number of cards and creatures that you have in your graveyard, such as Boneyard Worm, Splinter Fright. Its power and toughness grows as your graveyard grows. Deranged Assistant, great at getting more stuff into your graveyard. And Not to the Bone, a great card to stay alive against, aggressive decks in the format. It was pretty clear that Humans was going to be a good deck in this format, so having cards like Not to the Bone helps them stay alive. And then the big card right there under sorcery, Spider Spawning. Marshall's planning on making 1 million spiders and overwhelming his or her opponent, with all those little critters.
Yeah, it looks pretty sweet. I think the Nalder Bones are awesome in this format. Man, you can gain so much life. If you ever played the original Innistrad in Draft, they can gain you upwards of 20 life. And in a constructed environment like this, I can easily see them gaining Marshall 40, 60 life, just depending on how far he's gone through his library.
Yeah, it was cool. I was looking at self-mill decks when I was taking a look at this, because there's a lot of new cards that care about this. Like the Gidrog monster, for example. Great way to get more stuff in your yard. Great way to get leverage that way. Even like Drolf's Masterpiece is another good card that you play around with. So really cool decks. I'm really excited to see Marshall's deck in action, in particular for the throwback days of Innistrad. So I think that'll be a fan favorite.
Yeah, who do you think is favored in this matchup? Like the spiders versus the miracles. What's going to happen here?
I think it's very dependent on speed, because Paul has cards like Terminus, right? So, Marshall can spend a very long time milling himself. Like, I did this, I got all these cards in the yard. Here we go, spider spawning. Here's like my 10 spiders or whatever. And then Paul just goes, okay, here they go. And away they go, and then pretty much like the game plan is done at that point. I mean, if he has another spider spawning, that's going to be great, of course. But Paul just has a very good way to kind of deal with these permanents, and in a permanent way too, because he gets to bounce them.
This is kind of a flavorful matchup too. You imagine like angels getting caught up in cobwebs and all these spiders rushing out of nowhere.
Or it's more like you're out on the battlefield and then all these spiders are like coming onto you, and then you scream, and then a miracle happens, and then they all die.
They just disappear?
Yeah, they disappear. Like out of nowhere. It was a miracle.
That actually makes sense. No, that actually makes a ton of sense. Oh, okay. I dig that. I dig that a lot.
Yeah. So the other thing too is Paul can take extra turns with his deck. So, Marshall needs quite a little bit of time to set up and figure out what he's doing in that sense. Like, he needs turns to get stuff into his graveyard. And, if Paul just continues to take extra turns and like puts a lot of pressure on with like 4/4 angels and bouncing his permanents, etc., it could be really hard for Marshall to win in that situation. So I would favor Paul, but I kind of root for Marshall because I really want to see the spider spawning finish.
Yeah, I think Marshall's going to have a little bit of a harder time just because of the Devastation Tides and Terminus.
Those two. That's a very good point. I forgot about those two. Those also just undo everything that Marshall's trying to do. So yeah, so you're favoring Paul as well. Is that right?
No, actually, I think Marshall might be able to pull out of it, because just Marshall's going to gain so much life. It's going to take a while for Paul to get through Marshall's life total, even though 4/4 angels are huge. Mm-hmm. If Marshall just lands a huge Splinter Fright, even that Paul has to deal with, it makes it very hard. As long as Marshall doesn't overcommit everything, I think he might have a decent shot.
For sure. One thing that I wanted to remind the players, or everybody watching at home actually, is that we don't just have regular standings for the CSL. We actually have what we call Brewmaster. And so we have 2 different sets of standings. The standings of how we actually do in matches, and we will keep track of those, winning and losing records of that. And then we also have Brewmaster, which is everyone at home gets to vote on what they thought were the most flavorful decks. And they're going to be straw polls, and they're also going to be available on YouTube for a short time after when we publish this on YouTube. So everybody at home, take a look at what the decks are doing. If you like what they're doing, you can vote on them and give them Brewmaster points. So points for creativity and points for playing well. It also sounds like our players are ready to go, so let's head down and see the match.